we are going to adjust this image using the Camera Raw filter. Now, before this filter was added to Photoshop, the only way you could really use Camera Raw is if you took a photo and saved the raw format. And the raw format captures all the different light that's in the picture, and Camera Raw takes in all of that information and lets you manipulate the photo. Okay, basically make the photo look like it did when you took the picture, or you can even enhance it some. So since we're going into Camera Raw from Photoshop, what we're going to do is duplicate this background layer. I'm just going to press Control and J, and then I'm going to call it Camera Raw. And I'm going to convert this into a smart object, because that will allow me to go back into Camera Raw and make further adjustments if I want to. So once I've got that as a smart object, I'm going to go to Filter, Camera Raw Filter. Okay, and at this point, I'm now in Camera Raw. And you will have most of the commands available if you access it through Photoshop, but you will not have all the commands. If you save pictures in the RAW format and you double click to open them, they will open directly into Camera Raw, and you do have slightly more commands. And I'm not going to show you all the commands in here. I'm going to show you quite a few, but there is a lot you can do in Camera Raw. So this is kind of an introduction for you guys. So I'm going to first use white balance. And this is basically to correct for any kind of color cast. And you're supposed to select a neutral color, like white or gray, and then Camera Raw will adjust the rest accordingly. I'm going to actually point at the white area in the sky, which is kind of grayish, and you'll notice that things kind of moved over here because it made the adjustment. Now if I click down here, you can see that it's adjusting. I've got a gray walkway and making those adjustments. Okay, but I'm going to stick with up here, and obviously we're not going to keep it like this. We're just going for a neutral starting point. If you did this and you really didn't like it, you could go back to as shot. Auto lets Camera Raw try to figure it out, and typically that doesn't look very good. So we're going to go with the eyedropper. We're going to kind of pick the neutral area, and then we're going to adjust the temperature. And you've got cooler tones on the left, warmer tones on the right. And this is definitely a cooler image. A warmer image might be like a sunset or something like that, or maybe even an indoor shot where you might want to add more of the warm tones, but this is a cooler shot. And then we're also going to change the tint a little bit, move it towards the green. Next, we are going to do some tonal adjustments, and that's what this little area does. And with exposure, if you go towards the right, you can correct an underexposed image. And if you go towards the left, you can correct an overexposed. Now, I like it a little darker, so I'm going to keep it over here at -50. And we're going to increase the contrast a little bit. And if you're curious so far to see, gee, what did the other one look like? This toggles between, actually, no, that doesn't, it's this one. This toggles between your before and after. I think already it looks good, but we're going to make it even look better. Just going to keep clicking here until I get back to my image that I'm working on. And we are going to be adjusting for some highlights and some shadows. And let's see, for the highlights, move it over towards the right. Now you want to make sure you have highlight clipping on. And when we adjust shadows, we want to make sure shadow clipping is on. And you'll have to click to turn those on. And where you can really see if they're on or not is by manipulating whites. I think I might have just turned mine off. There we go. Because if you start moving this white slider over, you should start seeing some red, okay? And likewise, if you start moving this black slider over, if it's on, you're going to start seeing blue, okay? And, you know, some people will clip for artistic reasons, but in general, when you're correcting a photo, you really don't want the clipping to occur because you're losing detailed information. That's typically not something that you really want to do. Okay, so for the highlights, let me dial it down just a little bit. And then for the shadows, maybe the same thing. We're going to make some additional adjustments, so it's not unusual to have to come back in here and further adjust this. Okay, so this is kind of our starting point. We'll probably have to come back in and adjust it. And we're going to bump up clarity. Now see, as I do that, what happens over here with the shadow. So I'm going to have to dial back. Usually I dial back the black because that actually will quickly correct the issue. Likewise, if I start seeing highlights, I will move white. We're also going to bump up vibrance a little bit here. And then we're going to go over to effects. And this dehaze command is actually pretty awesome, especially if you take outdoor photos. As in Michigan, a lot of times it is a little bit hazy. So as you move this, you'll notice that you're getting a lot more detail. Okay, and I'm also seeing the shadow clipping creep in, so I'm going to dial it back just a little bit. Actually, I'm going to go up further because I like how this looks. And to address this, I'm going to go back over to basic and dial back my black a little bit. Because I like that contrast in my clouds. And let's just double check our settings here. And let's see. See if I move this back a little bit, I may be able to increase my black. Let me dial this back just a tad. So this is really all about playing with your settings. Until you get, you know, what you want in your image. And I might move this over just a little bit. No, don't like that. I think I will leave that. Let's go ahead and sharpen. And this is just like regular sharpening. Okay, so nothing really new here. You've got the radius, you got the sharpen amount. This is like the unsharp mask, very similar. The sliders work the same. Now let's take a look. So that was before, this is after. I don't know if I'm liking all that dark, so I might go in and change. Some of this, just a little bit, not too much. Now, when you're done, you just click OK, and it applies it in Photoshop. So that's what it looked like before. That's what it looks like after. Huge difference. And if you needed to go back into Camera Raw, this is why we did the Smart Filter. All you have to do is double click, and then you're going to have all of those same settings, and you can make further adjustments. Okay, so this is just a little introduction to what you can do in Camera Raw. It's amazing the things you can do in that little program.